So we're starting from chapter 3 in the second gate of Derech HaShem. So the previous chapters, started out by telling us that there are two layers to Hashgacha. To God's providence runs on two separate layers. One layer is the general layer, and one layer is the individualistic layer, the particular layer, right? The social layer and the individualistic layer, right? And in the social layer, he told us basically that HaShem is master plan is to build a community of perfected people, okay? And you see you make it into this country club, but you don't make it into the country club, right? There are many ways Hashem tries to get everybody into the country club one way or another, either through Gehenna, which is one way, through giving Yisurim in this world, but the only people that are going to make it to the country club, there's going to be some minimal level of perfection that's going to be demanded. Anybody below that will cease to exist. Anybody above that will be gotten in, one way or another, right? And that's the general principle, that there has to be in the future a community of perfected ones. Right. So then he talked about that. This is the olam habod. That's where the real reward is. Right. Everything here is just preparation for that to happen. There is, he talked about olam and neshamis a little bit. He talked about that there is the temporary world until the olam haba, where the neshamis go, and that they get a reward there that's similar to olam haba, but not yet complete. But that's the basic idea, that the Rishoyim get their reward in this world. Those that are truly the whole idea of how do you become perfected one, right? What he calls matzimim. You internalize within yourself elements of perfections, right? So become an essence, not just something. Hey, I did the mitzvah. I gave charity. That may be such an external thing that it never really impacts you on a deep, essential level, right? But a Jew who works on himself, he works on his midas, he works on, right? So those become part of his essence. He wants to do good. He wants to do the will of Hashem, right? So then the essence is transformed into goodness. So now he's worthy of the reward. Over here he didn't aver, over here he slipped, over there he slipped. Okay, that will be taken care of through Gehenna, right? On the reverse is there's a Rasha. He was built in a certain way. He was made like all of us, some good cards, some bad cards, and then he internalized himself elements of imperfection. So he took himself and he made his essence. What's the word? I don't know what's the word. He made his essence unworthy, so he gets discarded in the world to come. But he has a mitzvah here and he has a mitzvah there, so he gets the reward in this world, and that's it, right? That's the general master plan. The only thing that he added towards the end is that doesn't mean that now, even though everybody's looking for elements of perfection, so does that mean that everybody's going to be on the same level? Is there communism in the world to come? And the answer is no. There is still going to be different levels. Some people are going to be higher, some people are going to be lower, but all, so I don't fully understand how that works. All perfected individuals, but all on different madrigas, right? Okay, so that's that. He did mention towards the end also one other idea, an interesting idea, that even though those people that do get into the community of the perfected ones, so that means that they get reward, right? They get reward for all their mitzvahs. No, that's not true. Some mitzvahs, again, because they're so external and superficial, they get their reward in this world, and so those people may not get necessarily all of the reward for all the mitzvahs in the next world. That was the last piece that he mentioned. Okay, now this chapter, he said, I concluded the last few lines of the previous chapter was B'chol zeh shebi'arnu, everything that we've explained until now, hu kefi hakoitev hasheni, that's according to the second layer, haklali, which is the general layer, shezacharnu la'achona, that we have mentioned as for preparation, meaning into the world to come. Aval inyaneha hakefi hakoitev ha'ishi, but the preparation that's designed for on an individualistic level, it works on a very different plateau. Now we're going to explain this in this chapter, right? So this chapter is called Hashgacha Ha'ishiis, the Hashgacha that's individualistic, individual providence. Okay, so let's see now this text. Okay, Aleph. Hine, Kvar Higdamnu, we've already prefaced, She'inyan ha'avoida, that the purpose, the idea behind the service, She'nimser le'odem, that was designated for a person, Tolui, it is dependent, b'ma she'nivru b'oilam inyonei tov v'inyonei rai. It is dependent on the fact that in this world were created elements of good and elements of ra, elements of evil. Right? That's the only way that avoid is possible. There are elements of good and elements of evil. V'husam ha'odam beineim, and the person is placed between them, livcher loy es ha'tov, to choose the good. V'ulam, however, prote inyonei ha'tov rabim heim. However, there are many different types of elements of good. V'chein prote inyonei hara, and similarly, the many different types of elements of evil. Ki ha'loy kol mida toivo, isn't it true that every possible good trait, miklal hatov, is part of the general goodness? V'hefech hazeh, and the opposite of this, kol midara, every negative trait. Right? How many different good traits are there? Well, infinite probably. You know, every little trait has a trait within a subtrait, right? But there are many different human traits. I mean character traits. He's going to give us some examples, right? And similarly, negative traits. There are many different types of negative traits. So he's going to give some examples. Derech moshel, for example, hageus, hubris, or haughtiness, right? Selfishness, right? Gaiva. In other words, echad min yonei hara, that's one of the elements of evil. V'ha'anava, and humility, min yonei hatov, are one of the elements of good. Harachmonus, mercy, compassion, min yonei hatov, are elements of good. V'havcha, and the opposite, which is ha'agzorius, is the opposite, right? Ha'histapkus, self-contentment, v'simcha b'chelkoi, and satisfaction of happiness with your lot, min yonei hatov, are elements of good. V'havka, and the opposite of it, meaning being never satisfied, min yonei hara, are from elements of evil. V'chein kol shar protei midas, and all other types of midas. V'hinei shara ha'chochma ha'elyona, so the great wisdom measured out, kol protei ha'elyonei mizeh hamin. The great wisdom designed and measured out all different types of elements from this type, meaning the types of good and the types of evil, sheru'im limotze, that should exist in the world, v'lipol efsharusum b'choika enoshiyos, and what is possible to be accomplished by a human being, lefi hatachlis ha'ikri shezacharnu b'mekoyim, and all according to the general purpose that we've mentioned in its place. In other words, that's it. So the HaKadosh Baruch Hu kind of created all of these things in all of their expressions, their causes, and their accompaniments. Again, we'll have to see what that means, I'm not sure. And anything that goes along with them. And all of these were engraved as a possible, I don't know, internalization for man. I don't know why he's using such weird language, but he's saying basically that, you have to understand that everything is created, right? Nothing really exists, right? Nothing exists. HaShem, that everything that's created is created by HaShem for a purpose. So the good midas are created and the bad midas are created. The good midas have to be created with the possibility of a person internalizing that midah. And a bad midah has to be created with the possibility of a person internalizing that midah. Right? All of the traits are created, and then the human being is designed to fit those traits. Okay? So now he continues. Now, so that all these things will be possible, now that a person should experience all of these types of midas, so he has to be placed in various circumstances, right? You follow? So meaning if the whole point is, I'm going to he's using a very lengthy way to get what he's trying to say, but basically the point is, hey, your job here is to achieve as many elements of perfection as possible. There's a lot of midas to work with, right? You cannot be a compassionate person in theory, right? You have to be a compassionate person in practice. In order for you to have a compassionate person in practice, you have to have a situation where your compassion will be challenged and you're going to overcome it and you're going to express it, and that's going to help you internalize this compassion within you, right? So you're going to have to be placed in various, let's call them obstacle courses, in order to have all the various midas that you need for your perfection to be able to express itself, right? Okay. So that's the basic idea here. So again, so that all of these elements should be possible, there has to be many different situations for people. That each one of these situations should be a test, a challenge to them. So that because they have to give rise, the possibility, for all of the elements of evil to be available. And an opportunity for a person to strengthen himself against them, and to grasp the good. Derech Marshall, for example, if there would be no rich people and no poor people, there would be no opportunity for a person to be neither compassionate nor cruel. But now, the rich person can be tested with his wealth. Im yisachzor, if he will become cruel, al ha'oni, right? If he will not, meaning have compassion for a poor person, that needs him, or yimirachim all over, maybe he will have compassion on him, he will have mercy, and he will give him, charity as he needs. And furthermore, the poor person will also have his own challenge. Im yistapek b'muat shebiyodeh, will he be satisfied with the little bit that is available to him, v'yoyda LaHashem, and he will thank God, or will he decry his lot and be disappointed with what he has, right? Furthermore, the riches will provide another challenge le'osher for the wealthy one. Nisayon liroisim yorum boy liboy, if that will give him. Will cause him to elevate himself. Or will he follow after the emptiness of the world? And he will leave the work, the service of HaShem. But if, on the other hand, despite all of his wealth, he remains humble, and he remains lowly, and he rejects the empty things of the world, and he chooses the things of the Torah of avodah and service, and similarly all other such cases. Right? So his whole point in this paragraph is that there has to be a myriad of situations that provide an abundance of challenges for each separate individual midah, and since there are so many midas, there's so many elements, there has to be many different situations for challenge. Good, yeah, all right, good. Let's keep going. Now, does that mean that everybody gets the same challenge? Since there's a myriad of midas, right? So shouldn't we all be tested in all of these midas, right? Why don't we all get the same test? Okay, right. So let's see. Va'amnam, it's not exactly gegulim, but va'amnam chilkach hachachma, the wisdom divided, the lofty wisdom, as in yonei hanisoyon, the elements of challenge, of test. It's another word of test. I don't like the word test. He uses the word challenge. Okay. It's better than sayon means. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, let's see. So the lofty, the holy wisdom divided the elements of nisayon, of challenge, ha'ela ben ishe min ha'anoishi, between different people amongst mankind. Okay, as Hashem saw in His deep wisdom, deep counsel is appropriate. So therefore, we find that every single individual person has a chelik meyuchad, has a particular, unique part b'nisoyon, in the challenge, ub'milchemas hayetzer, and in the war of his yetzer hara. V'hu pikudosoi, and that's his mission, u'masooi, and his burden, ba'olam hazeh, in this world. V'tzorich la'amoid boi kifi ma shehu, so he has to withstand it according to what this person is. Okay, so v'yudnu ma'asov, so then he will be judged. His actions will be judged b'midas dinoi, in the character of judgment is baruch of God, kifi hamasa asher nitun lo be'emes, and according to the burden that he was really given in truth. B'chol b'chinoisov, in all of his unique facets, betachlis adiktuk, in the most deepest judgment. Right. So each individual person, right? I mean, we know this, right? We know that every single individual has a test that's specifically designed for him. And so what's a failure for one person is not necessarily a failure for that person. And what's a success for one person is not necessarily a success for another person. Every person has an individualistic, completely custom tailored, what's the word?
Situation.
Right. Not course, what do we call them? Challenge course, I don't know. Obstacle course. Yeah, obstacle course. Every person has his own individual obstacle course, and you can only judge a person based on his individual presets, and whether he's doing well or not. Now he's going to give an example. This is comparable to the servants of a king. Each one, all of them are standing to serve his decrees. And all of them together accomplish the entire service of the kingdom. This one is an accountant, this one is a general, this one is a janitor. Each one of them together accomplish the entire job. I mean, not each one of them. All of them together accomplish the entire job, but each one individually has his own task to accomplish. For each individual person, he gives a separate mission. But together they accomplish perfection of the entire human race that are needed for him, for king. Right? Each one is responsible to perfect his portion, that's given to him, according to the actions of his command. And according to the actions of his mission, meaning as much as he accomplishes his mission, so too Hashem will reward him. Right? So if he might have he's a janitor, but he does his job so perfectly, he makes the palace look so clean, right? And the king is so impressed. On the other hand, there's a general that does his job so the janitor might get a bigger bonus than the general, because the general did his job, kacha, but the janitor really made it sparkle. However, this division between missions, udrochav, and the ways nisgovim me'od, they are of course completely hidden from us, from our perception. We can't really know fully how the whole master plan works out. Only the lofty wisdom, which is much above the typical mind, he sidrosam, it measured everything out and organized everything in a way that is most fitting. Okay, now this is the part that is, I think, a little more kind of provides a little more depth to what we said till now. Okay, v'hine b'yosoi inyonei ha'olam kulam nimshochim v'neatokim. Now that we have, and as I mentioned before, that we know that all of the particulars and elements of the world, kulam nimshochim, they all kind of are brought down v'neatokim and I don't know how to say it, transmitted b'hishtalshulos, through the chain, me'inyan le'inyan, from one concept to another, me'mitziyusum b'nivdolim, from the original existence of nivdolim. And if you remember, back, well, he's going to say we're back. Mitziyusum b'gashma, k'moshe zacharnu le'el b'chelik aleph perak hey, like we mentioned above in the first section in the 5th chapter, right? If you go back to the first section, 5th chapter. So he says over here, in the very beginning, on page 74, he says that the entire, right, Chelkei Klal Abriya Hem Gashmi V'Ruchim, the entire creation is divided into 2 parts, which is spiritual and physical. Within spiritual, he said, he says that there are neshamas, there are souls, v'hasheni nivdalim. And in the second part, there's something called nivdalim, which we translate over here as transcendentals, or transcendental forces, right? So now, he said that everything in the entire creation begins not down here, but everything begins from the transcendentals, and everything that we see are just outgrowths of the roots. The roots of existence are these transcendental forces. So now what he's going to tell us is, so therefore, since that each individual also kind of takes his root in the transcendental forces, so depending on the root that a person has within the transcendentals, that is how kind of his mission and his obstacle course is designed. So it really all is dependent on the root of a person's soul. Okay, so again, since we know that everything that exists was derived and transmitted from those lofty transcendentals, ad mitziyusum b'gashmi, until it was brought down through this linkage all the way to Gashmias. As we mentioned, le'el b'chelik aleph perak hey. Hine kol ha'inyonim ha'ela. So therefore, all of these things also, meaning prote nisyona shel ha'odam, all of the particulars of the challenges of each individual person, that we have mentioned, maschil shoirish, their root begins bechinoisam benivdalim. The root of all of these things are in their expressions in the transcendentals. In accordance to the existence that is applicable to them from tikkun and kilkul. So, if you remember, he said that the expression of these nivdalim, I hope I'm saying it right, the expressions of these nivdalim can be complete and can be incomplete, right? The tikkun is when expression is complete. The kilkul is when the expression is incomplete. When the expression is incomplete, so the kilkul creates the possibility of evil in the world. That's how he told us in that first section, how the possibility of evil is created. It's created from an incomplete expression of some kind of a force that allows therefore place for evil to exist. And then HaShem is able to then create the concept of evil when the forces are not fully expressed, right? So he says, so within each individual's test, that my test also comes from both of these elements of each individual person's, his root of his neshama, depending on the expression of the transcendentals, tikkun and kilkul. Makes sense? So let's see a little more.
Tikkun and Gilul is the same thing.
Tikkun means fixing. Kilkul means destruction.
Kilkul.
No, not Gilgul. Kilkul. All right. So Kamosh Kasavti Lamai. We'll look back there in a second. Ukafi in Yonam Shom. Nidoinim v'nigzorim li'imotzi u'li'yispashet ad agashmis b'ishma ru'uyim lohem. So according to their existence there in the transcendentals, that's how they are decreed to come down into this physical world, in the individuals that were appropriate to them. And again, I'm sorry. Right, so all of this is divided among the entire mankind in all of the entire human history, so that all of these things can be expressed. And Hashem, looked into the entire process. And that's clear according to the system that we have set up. Okay, let's just look there for a second. Let me just see a second. 22, hold on. Part 3. 157. Okay, so it doesn't say here more than I already said. So basically he's saying that the transcendentals are like transmitters of God's light. That's the way we can think of them. And so sometimes they transmit the light fully, and sometimes they're not in their perfect state, whether because they're not united properly or whatever the reason may be. But sometimes they're not in the perfected state. And if they're not in perfected state, then they don't fully transmit the light. When they don't fully transmit the light, they create a possibility of evil to exist. Right? That's all he says over here that I see. Right? He says, they can be in a good state, but not such a good state. What decides if it's a good state or not a good state? That they are fully prepared to transmit, to conduct the light of his countenance. And then he shines through them. But the opposite is that they're not fully prepared for this. And so Hashem hides from them. And that is what creates the ability for evil to exist. Okay? Right? Okay. That's how he got around the question there, is how we say that Hashem does not create evil directly. So what do we mean by that? So he said, of course he does, but that's on the second level. The first level is there is the opportunity for imperfection is created through the imperfection of these transcendentals, from their not shining through the complete light. Once they don't shine through the complete light, then there's that whole merkava of evil that gets created directly by God. That's what he said over here. So now how does this connect back to us? So he's saying similarly, he seems to be saying that similarly, in every creation of every individual human being, in their root soul, there is also encoded this sort of duality. There are parts of him that are fully expressed, right?
Okay.
There are parts of him that are fully expressed, meaning the root of his soul, which is located in the transcendentals, that part of his soul which comes from the transcendentals fully expressed, that's one part. There's another part of his soul that comes from the place where transcendentals are not fully expressed. Okay? And so by him now being tested on those elements that were not fully expressed, he causes them to be expressed, and so he brings light to the transcendental forces that are connected, to God more directly than him. Right? Understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what defines whether this particular individual will have a particular nisayon, is dependent on the root of his neshama, on how within the root of his neshama, if those transcendentals were expressed, which elements were fully expressed and which elements were not fully expressed. And so he'll be tested, I'm guessing, on the elements that were not fully expressed, so then through his actions they become expressed and he brings light into the world.
Isn't it easier to say, just like we said earlier, Gilgulim?
No, because
You just said it
Gilgulim,
like in so much more complex way. It's the same thing. It's all about what you did wrong and did it. Meaning, okay.
no,
I'll tell
because it
you.
has nothing to do
I'll
with
tell you
Gilgulim.
what I'll explain to you. What is it really? What does mitzvot do? Right? Mitzvot. It's not about we come with a bag of mitzvot.
Right.
Mitzvot has to change us from
Right. That's
who
what we
we
said
are.
the first part.
Exactly.
Correct.
So that's the whole thing. That people that get into Olam Haba, they have to be a certain quality people. And
Correct.
what makes you be a qualified person to have the right quality is mitzvot, is the closeness to Hashem, right?
Correct.
So when the neshama goes through lives, in certain lives it's able to fix a certain midah, whether it's kindness, whether it's kas, whatever the midah is. You know what I'm saying? So now, let's say one person is born very kind person. Why? Because maybe in the previous life he worked on that midah, and now he got that midah already. It's already part of his neshama.
Right, but he's not talking about previous
Right, but
lives.
he's
He's saying that
explaining
there are
the
no
whole
previous
mechanism,
lives.
right.
There's not without
But
Gilgulim. He's just
that's
saying.
the thing.
He's just
There
saying
is
in the
bec-
root of my creation.
Can I
Right.
answer you something?
Go ahead.
That's the thing. Why Hashem created one person? Why Hashem didn't create million people in one shot?
Right.
Because that one person had everything. That one person, originally it was one person, but then when the reality was that it's not going to be one person, then it's all broken to pieces,
Mm-hmm.
right? So but the original plan, it was all in one person.
Okay. Right.
So it from Adam Rishon, that what you say is already not there, because it's already all into different pieces, and now every piece has to do its own job, and that's going to be through generations.
I mean, I hear that. I'm just thinking that the one person was the entire microcosm of all those transcendentals combined.
Exactly. But because it's not that anymore, so that now each neshama, each piece of that one person has its own history. You know what I'm saying? So it's again,
But
it's
It's not the history. But what he's saying is, it's not so much the history. It's really where's the root. It really question is what's happening in the root.
Right.
Meaning you're right that within the Gilgul I may have already fixed something in my root, and I'm working on something else in my root.
right.
That's possible. But ultimately, the cause is
the original
the root in the transcendentals. That's what he's saying.
All
He's saying
these
depending on our right. So that's why, for example, so one person is struggling with poverty, another person is struggling with wealth, and all depends on where in the transcendentals he originates from.
Remember in Nefesh HaChaim we
Right.
had the parable of a white sheet covered with black dust and the person scratching off, revealing the white from behind the dust.
Right.
This is it.
I mean, that was something else. I think that was a question of, negative creation versus positive creation. Do you create by scratching off the extra and the thing comes out, or do you just build the thing itself? I think it may be a little different.
Okay.
But this is just saying that, okay, that's it. I think we understand each other. I hope. Whatever we understand, I think we understand. Let's see, just a little more. What time is it? Just a little more.
А что, может 30 минут сделали?
Okay, so let's see Gimels. Gimel, small. Nimtza lefi hashoyresh hazeh. So what comes out according to this principle, shehatzlochos ha'olam hazeh, that all of successes in this world, v'tzaroisov, and all of its sufferings, tiyena, are all made l'sheyunusu bom ha'odam, that a person shall be tested through them, b'chelek mechelkei nesoim, from some part of a challenge, right? So it's not that. So it's very clear. This point is very interesting and very clear. It's not only that the sufferings are a challenge for a person. The successes of this world are also part of the challenge for a person. Okay, that whatever the great wisdom designed for that individual person, right? So every element, everything for every individual, the success and the suffering, right, the ups and the downs, each thing has its own different aspect of the obstacle course. Okay.
You know what else I was thinking? That all right,
Okay. Now he's gonna. We'll just start this, and we'll end off with this. We'll just start this idea, food for thought. So this is. I find this particularly interesting, as this maybe connects to what we were talking about by the way on Shabbos. But however, there is another cause or another cheshbon that's involved for each individual person. That somehow works according to the ways of justice and reward in this world. And that is that the great judge decreed. Again, he's not calling him the creator, he's not calling he's the great judge over here, he's not calling the great wisdom, is the great judge decreed that one of the results of human actions will be divine assistance from HaShem to help him, to make it easier for him to accomplish his perfection. Right? So it's a little opposite to what he said, because till now he's saying, well, listen, everything is dependent on challenge. Listen, you're here to make a challenge. You're here to to achieve this tough mudder or whatever it is, obstacle course, right? And now he's saying, no, there are certain actions are designed that once you trigger those actions, the actions trigger divine assistance. Right? So that's what I'm saying. That's what we were talking about this parsha, right? As the whole thing was that the entire world originally was really to be a helpmate, just like the woman was a helpmate. The world was also a helpmate for a person to assist you in your service. Right? The world was a pleasant place. It was Gan Eden. It was there to help you along to accomplish your mission. Once he messed it up, then it was bringing weeds and whatnot and all those extra things. Now he needed more effort to get the world back into shape, right? So the world now was not an antagonist to him, but meaning it was more of a challenge. It's like you fight it, but once you it's like a horse, right? You have to break it in. Once you break the horse in, okay, then it serves you well. But initially you got to break it in, right? But once you break it in, it's your trusted servant, right? So, right. So, and then with Cain, once he killed, then the world was completely antagonistic to him. He had to. He will not give you. The pasuk says the land will no longer give you her strength, right? So he completely messed it up.
For the human nature? I mean, for the human beings, or just for himself?
I don't know. Probably for everybody. More for himself, but also for everybody to some degree. So there are times, what I was saying in Shabbos, there are times you get into a situation where you're doing all the right things and everything should be going well and everything, the nature should be helping you, and yet all of a sudden it's like you're being prevented. It's like it's hitting you. So you just have to let it pass, and then a different tkufa will become, and it'll be, sometimes you just have to let it pass. There's nothing you can do about it. That's just. But he's saying the opposite, though. He's saying there are, however, situations that turn the antagonism of the world to you, right? There are certain times that the reward of this action is that it lightens the burden, enables you to make things start falling into place for you. Okay. And he's being actually saved from the stumbling blocks. As the pasuk says, Raglei Chesidov Yishmor. Hashem guards or protects the steps of the righteous. Okay, so that's an interesting idea in its own right. I mean, again, my heart tells me, and I'm not sure if I'm wrong, but my heart tells me that, I don't know how to say this properly because I don't know the system, but my heart tells me that some of our people within our community have a harder time in certain things that some other people that are not, let's say, in our community, that somehow, I don't know, whatever you call it, schos ovis or something, or I don't know exactly what it is, but something, there's some siyata d'shmai that's not
that we don't have,
right? That we don't have this raglei chesid of Yishmor. I don't know exactly. Again, we'll see. What to be continued. This was food